You can It's been a long time coming. I'd say about 364 days since y'all seen me. Y'all been watching, y'all been waiting, y'all been wondering what me and Eric have been doing. All the scouting's been done and all the prospects have been looked over, the combine, all these measurements and these short on offensive linemen and all the stuff that's been picked through. And we're here tonight to go through all this. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. I really hope I wasn't muted during that, but if I was, y'all probably know exactly what I said. It's my boy Boutte, NFL mock draft time. My favorite time of year. Like, this is my favorite thing that I do. I don't know. We've been doing this, what, a decade now? I believe our first mock draft was 2016 with Ezekiel Elliott. Does it sound about right in the backyard on the porch, listen to the birds? And Diana, I think, wrote it down for us in marker. And we've evolved a little bit now to the pencil. That's probably one of my favorite things that we posted. Everyone always comments how it's still in pencil. But what's going on, my partner? How we doing, Eric?
It's another great NFL draft season. Yeah, it's funny to think about. Literally started on some porch chairs, hanging out, doing this the old-fashioned way. And I think 11 now, 10, 11 mock drafts later, we're still showing Mel and Todd how to do this thing. So
no doubt. And even the hair pill, creatine drinking Phil Yates, man. Oh, that guy, man. He wants to be Mel Kiper so bad. If y'all ain't noticed, his hair all slicks back, and he's bragging about drinking his creatine and all this stuff. That guy has some terrible takes. I know I'm probably on the outside with that one, but I don't want to make this a Phil Yates slander show. But yeah, I think 2019 we were supposed to go live and. We had technical difficulties, but they weren't able to. But then we had some Wuhan come through in 2020, and it just made it easy. We started up on Twitch. I think we did 2 or 3 on Twitch. This is our second year on YouTube. So I'm just super excited to get into it. And everyone knows the Tennessee has the number 1 pick. If y'all don't know how we do this, though, basically we're going to go through each of the 32 picks. And I got the odd picks this year, so I'll start off with the Titans. And it's the first year I think we've ever done this where all 32 teams still have their first round picks. There hasn't been a trade, which is kind of crazy. It's telling to the draft class that we have, and I'm sure we'll get into the class and where the peaks of the class are and where the holes are in this class and where the deep positions and all that are. So if I was Tennessee, I'm going to ask you for your take, but I will tell you what I would have did. They already know we know what they're going to do, right? But what I would have done is Brian Callahan. I would have called up Cincinnati. I would have made a trade for Jake Browning, and I would have drafted Travis Hunter, right? I would have drafted a generational talent. We haven't seen anything like him ever. Play both sides of the ball as much as he did in college and at the level that he did in college. So that's what I would have done if I was Tennessee. I would have took the best player available in Travis Hunter, and I would have traded for Jake Brown or found one of these other quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, possibly, probably not Aaron Rodgers. But what about you, Derek? Before obviously I submit the pick, we know who it's going to be. What would you have done if you were Tennessee in this situation?
Well, I think you'd make some calls around the league. I'm sure they've been chatting for the last few months or since the season ended. I just don't know. I mean, if you love Jake Browning, if you really thought he was the guy, I don't know how many other backups there are that a lot of teams would feel confident in. You're sitting here at the number 1. I don't think the Titans have ever had a number 1 pick, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Don't think so. I know they've been like in the top, but I don't think they've had the first overall pick.
so at this point, seeing what we Titans fans had to watch last year with Will Levis and that disaster of a QB room. I think you get some excitement for your fan base. They're going to get a new stadium soon. Cam Ward's got some electric talent, and I think it's a good opportunity to kind of rejuvenate this franchise and see what they can do with Cam Ward.
Yeah, no doubt. And fun fact, this will be the fourth number one overall quarterback that Brian Callahan has worked with. Not necessarily been the head coach or offensive coordinator, but he was with Peyton Manning. He also was with Matthew Stafford, and then most recently Joe Burrow. So obviously Cam Ward is going to be the pick. I think that the Titans have known that for quite some time. There was some speculation about them, going Hunter, or going Shador, or even Abdul Carter. But they kind of leaked it out last night that they're firm on their decision, and the NFL doesn't want them to say who it is because they want this show. But we all know it's going to be Cam Ward, announced tomorrow night. Hugging Roger Goodell first, and yeah, so Cleveland is on the clock with the number two overall pick. They have, let's say, a solid team outside of quarterback. We know what happened with the Sean Watson scenario and that whole experience and whatnot. But I'll give it up to you and your thoughts with Cleveland, the number two overall pick.
Yeah, I think they may be it may be a blessing in disguise to not be the number one pick this year. I think if they had the number one pick, there'd be a lot more pressure to look at taking Cam Ward. Even though I don't know what your thoughts are on Ward or the QB class, but I'm not super high on it myself. And compared to some of these past years or some of these upcoming years, but I think they're in a good spot now because, like you said, the roster is really good. They have an opportunity here to truly take the best player on a lot of teams' board, certainly on their board. And then maybe they kind of use this as a bridge year. Their team probably won't have the best record next year, but they'll be in a good position to find a quarterback next year. So with this pick, I think they'll go Travis Hunter. You alluded to kind of a generational talent. Obviously, both sides of the ball. It'll be interesting to see which way does he lean more. Does he play a 60-40 split? Does he play a 75-25 situational? Or can he truly go out there and play 80-90% of the snaps on both sides of the ball, which we've never really seen done, which would be pretty exciting because it was fun to watch in college. I personally would lean Abdul Carter. I love going trenches here, but again, this team that just needs some hope, some optimism, and you have a guy that could truly be special on both sides of the ball, you take Travis Hunter, and I think they'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We could literally sit here and talk about this player and this pick for a whole 30 minutes. The whole top 3 and 4 has been kind of locked and loaded, but it's kind of been shaken up here and there over the last 3 weeks, I would say. People talk about teams like Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter, and especially in the AFC North, we have Lamar Jackson, you have Joe Burrow, and then whatever Pittsburgh is going to do. But
hey, we'll see. You're picking them at 21 today.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, exactly, right. Well, that's going to be a fun conversation. I think it's going to be fun tomorrow when, we'll get to there. But, Travis Hunter is just different. So if you're Andrew Berry and you're Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns, you're taking Travis Hunter number 2. What side of the ball are you leaning him more towards the play? Or, obviously the kid said he wanted to play both sides of the ball, and if he wasn't going to, he'd retire. So if you're the GM there, what position, or the head coach there, what position would you lean more him playing?
Well, the team needs him more on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they're pretty bleak in the receiver room, just in the explosive play department. They really were lacking last year. Obviously, you talked about the quarterback situation, so we'll see how that plays out. They need him more on the offensive side of the ball. So I think if you can get the ball in his hands like they did at Colorado, him make some plays, put up points, which is obviously how you win football games. And then I know there's been some chirping about, do they use them situationally if they are doing a 75-25 split, but maybe in certain packages, if in passing downs for the opposing team, do you bring them in spots? Which I kind of like the idea of doing that. It'll be fun. It'll be really fun to see how they use them.
Yeah, no doubt. I just think using the number 2 overall pick on a corner In today's game, I think more than ever, you could kind of be okay with that. If he's especially a lockdown Deion Sanders, corner, right? But the thing is, I think you're more likely to pick up a receiver. They're the top five, the top top three or whatnot here at two. So I think that's what they're looking at, and I do agree with you that they need him more on the offensive line of the ball. But the simple fact of the matter is, Travis Hunter is different, Eric, and he is going to prove a lot of people wrong, even though they're all saying what you're saying. He's just a phenomenal athlete. The kid is super smart. Like, his ball skills are incredible. And like I said, I could spend 30 minutes on this kid. I have like so many facts on him. His grandmother was a state champion in track. He's also a junior, which is crazy. The report just came out today that his father, the senior, Travis Senior, is able to go to the draft. We do have these stories, and I'm not here to talk about why his father's on probation, why he had to get clearance to fly into Green Bay to go see his son get drafted number 2 overall by the Cleveland Browns. But there's just so many things fascinating by this kid. I think he's one of 3 players ever to be an academic All-American and an All-American on the field. Like Tim Tebow, and the other one is a quarterback. I just skipped my mind. But this kid is super smart. He loves football. I think he can play both sides of the ball 75-40, 75-50%. And I truly would have him be that receiver, and then sprinkle him the rest at corner. I'd also have him return it. And shit, Eric, I'd have this dude, especially with the new kickoff rule, I'd have him learn how to kick. I bet you he could too. I'd have him kick and field on kicks, but I know Kevin probably wouldn't, and the owner probably wouldn't want him out there fielding the kickoffs. But I love this kid, and I'm getting the jersey. It kind of sucks because I already have a Cleveland Browns jersey, and I'm trying to collect all 32 teams. But so it would be fun if he went somewhere else. But so is it official? Roger Goodell is going to be hugging Travis Hunter second after Cam Warren?
Lock it in.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this is such a fun pick and a fun player. Don't be surprised though if they trade. Andrew Berry is known for not getting information out there. So this information coming out there that it is Travis Hunter, kind of I was like, interesting, it's coming out so soon. But here's to one of our favorite teams, the New York Football Giants, who they did a lot this offseason at quarterback, bringing in 2 of our favorite players, and I mean that genuinely, in Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And they got the QB whisperer and Brian Abel, who's going to do something. Do they go Shador here? Do they Jackson Dart? I don't know though. The GM and the coach are kind of at it, and they can't come to an agreement. So this will be super interesting. I honestly don't think it's even quarterback. I think they're going to go with some people would call it generational talent. I'm not as high on this kid as most. He is the best edge rusher in the class, but I think him and the second edge rusher is closer than a lot of people are giving credit for. So I think y'all know where I'm heading with this. It's a little chalky. I was looking over this the other day, and I'm like, dang, that I get all the chalk, and Eric has all the fun picks. But I think we're going to be able to twist it up and make some fun picks coming down the line. So let's get this thing rolling. Abdul Carter is going to be a New York Giant. I won't be getting his jersey, and I won't be getting adding to my collection. That's one team I don't have. It is also interesting, though. I said Cleveland was fielding calls. New York is also fielding calls, too. So is it Dallas trying to come get Travis Hunter? Is it the Broncos coming up trying to get Ashton Dente? Who knows what's really going on? This is the time of year, this week especially, don't believe anything you read on X or too much of it. You have to read into it. Is it smoke or is there actually fire there? So it will be fun how this top 3 goes, if it is the chalk or if we get a little mix-up with the trade. So New England Patriots here at number 4. They got a new head coach in Mike Vrabel. He's we already know what he's going to do. We already saw what he did in Tennessee. He's going to bring his guy. So who is his guy going to be, Eric?
Well, and before we move off the Giants, I hate that they're going to be able to take Abdul Carter. One of my favorite things for the last full decade now, is watching the Giants make really dumb draft picks every year and then just being a train wreck on the field. I love it. I think you love it too. We love watching the Giants suck. So we hope that maybe they take Abdul Carter, and maybe, like you said, you're not as high on him. Maybe he doesn't live up to expectations, which would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully, it's more Chase Young rather than Miles Garrett.
Right.
Um, but I feel like Philly is always involved in like the downturn to the Giants draft position. Like did New York beat Philly in week 17 this year or something weird, or maybe it's just previous years where Philly like has like benched their quarterback or something, funny like that, and New York has won the game and the draft position has gone higher. I don't know. I know New England, where you're at, they actually beat the Bills with Joe Milton to lose the first overall pick and fall to four. But yeah, hopefully, Abdul Carter is a bust, and or maybe they trade back or they go Shador and it just doesn't work out. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, fuck the Giants, man.
I agree.
I
All right.
think I do see one thing. I think it's awesome though that Joe Sheen and Brian Dable like aren't on the same page. Like Brian Dable's like, yeah, like okay, you might like Shador, but like Jackson Dart is more my guy or whatever. I think it would kind of be fun just to get Jalen Milroe. Where, he had Josh Allen. We'll talk. Well, we might not talk about Jalen Milroe rather than him just being at the draft, not coming off the board in the first round. But I don't know. That just whole thing is just funny to me, and the owner like sitting out of it and now, but the owner's sitting down with him tonight or tomorrow, and he's going to be the one making the pick. It's hilarious. All right, you're good, brother. Go ahead with New England. Unless you have anything else on New York?
No, I think our draft has been pretty boring. It's sometimes it's just going to shake down this way, especially in these mocks. But I do think we're going to get. I think we're going to have a lot of movement tomorrow. I think we're going to have a lot of unexpected picks because the boards are kind of all over the place. Here's a spot where I kind of went back and forth all week because the pick is going to be the boring pick. The pick is going to be the mocked pick. It's going to be the need on offensive line. It's going to be the Vrabel guy. It's going to be Will Campbell from LSU. Apparently, they love him.
Go Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers. They love him. I really, really, in my gut, wanted to go Genty here.
Okay.
For two reasons. I could see if you're the Patriots, obviously, you want to protect Drake May. I think he took the most amount of sacks in the league last year. The offensive line needs some retooling. They made some moves. But, man, would it be fun to pair up Ashton Genty with Drake May and finally get some explosiveness back in the New England offense that has been dead for, since Tom Brady's left. But I don't think here's the spot. I do think New England gets a lot of calls. I do think the Seahawks, the Jags, the Jet. I think you're going to have a lot of those teams sitting behind them, giving them phone calls to try to possibly leapfrog each other. But I think if it holds the way it does, and again, we've done this mock for 10 years. We don't do trades here, so we got to pick it as it comes. And I think Will Campbell's the pick. Go Tigers.
Yeah, man, you brought up so much there, and there's already so much there with the prospect. Like, first off, the combine, all these offensive linemen's arms were shorter than they were at the pro day, and then and people are going to say, oh well, LSU's pro day, the equipment guy, measured Will Campbell's arms longer than that. No, that's not how it goes, Eric. These are the coaches and the NFL personnel that are doing these work, even though it's at LSU's pro day, it's the NFL personnel that's doing these measurements and these tests with these kids. So they're the ones that measure the 33-inch arms on the kids. And everything that's coming out about this kid, he's a dog. He loves football. And if you just look at the tape, like he plays in the SEC against, which might be one of the deepest edge classes we've seen in years. And he's going to be able to do it. You don't draft a guard in the top 4. He's going to be a left tackle. His agent has told him he's going to play left tackle. He's a left tackle. Go Tigers. So, yeah, that might be born or whatever, and Patriots fans would want, Ashton Genty. Let me tell you this. This is also a deep running back class, too. So you're going to find a running back. You need that offensive line before you can go and get your Saquon Barkley. So, the Eagles showed everyone what you could do with have a running back. But what's like the last thing in everyone's mind, Eric, from the Super Bowl? It's not Saquon Barkley. What is the people think of last? Or what do you think about?
Well, I think of Patrick Mahomes getting sacked 6 times.
Them dogs. Exactly right. Yes. So people will also say, oh, he's going to get Joe Tooney to death. If he has them short arms and, the big old boys from Georgia are going to know. He's going to be fine. He's from the SEC. He'll be all right. So, yeah, I love the pick for the Patriots. Now I think this
Draft
is kind
starts
of
now,
where,
right?
yeah, I think so. I think this is where it really starts. This is fun for a lot of reasons. Mason Graham has been slotted into this pick for 3 weeks, right, since we got out of the combine. And the crazy thing, Eric, I wasn't going to pick Mason Graham. The pick always was going to be Jalen Walker here for me. I love it. I hinted earlier that the edges, 1 and 2, aren't as far away as the consensus is across the board. I love Jalen Walker, and I think he'd be a better pro than Abdul Carter. But the Jaguars aren't going to go that way. They're not going to team him up, which would that'd be filthy. Him and Trayvon together, I think that would be real nice. But that's not what Jacksonville's going to do. They're going to get Liam Cohen, an offensive playmaker. Now let's kind of think. What did Trevor have at Clemson?
Good running game, good receiving crew.
Yeah, what specifically though about those receivers? What do you have? T. Higgins, Justin Ross. What were they? They were big, right? He had big, tall receivers. What did Liam Cohen had in Tampa Bay?
Big,
Mike
tall
Evans,
Mike,
Chris Godwin. Yeah, you already got Brian Thomas. Now, I am not a Ted McMillan guy, right? I had Ted McMillan ranked 51st on my board. Like, I don't have him in the first round. But with all the smoke coming out, I think it's offensive player. And I don't necessarily think it's here at 5, Eric. And like you said, we don't do trades, and you kind of hinted at that. And I was going to text you this morning, and it wasn't even about this pick. I was going to text you this morning. I'm going to make a trade, maybe in the late teens, maybe in the high 20s. How do you feel about it? I won't mess with the even picks. It's only the odd ones. But like, nah, we're going to stay loyal to the last decade. We're not making any trades. So with that being said, though, it's Ted McMillan here. It might not be at 5. It might be someone coming up from that 10 to 20 range, if you get what I'm saying, to get that running back. And we'll see. Does Jacksonville fall back just enough in front of these receiving needy teams to be able to get the boy at Ted McMillan? We shall see tomorrow night, but that's who I have been taking right now. This is a fun one, too, because you could go a lot of different ways. I know we have someone in the chat who is very interested in this pick. He respects our opinion more than most. So go ahead with Las Vegas, Eric.
Well, on that pick, I think that'd be a shocker. It would be, at least for me personally, and sounds like you're a little lower on him. I certainly am too. Sorry to RB if he's a big T-Mac fan. Man, you watch him and I feel like he's a guy with that high floor. Like he kind of reminds me of like a Mike Williams. Like he's kind of like a safe. He's a big body. He's great on the 50-50 balls. He's going to overpower some smaller corners. He's going to be good on these fade and these end zone routes. But I don't really see a lot of that big explosiveness. I know he had some of these big games. A lot of them kind of came. He had one 300-yard game against like a New Mexico State. So some of those numbers are a little skewed. But, I mean, like you made some good points with Liam Cohen coming from, the parallels from the Bucs to the Jags now. Trevor desperately needs all the help he can get. So, yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah, he reminds me more of a kind of like a Drake London, but just a soft. He just doesn't have that dog in him. Like he's not going to go across the middle. And
volleyball guy, big volleyball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
not a football guy.
For sure. You see that with a lot of these guys. I think it's the 7-on-7 though. Like that's a lot of Shador's like hand touching away. It's the 7-on-7. They're just and I don't know. We'll just see. And I love Shador. I know I've slandered him, but I love Shador. He's QB1 in this draft for me. Even though I went Campbell Ward number 1. We're going on what's happening tomorrow, not my opinion. I think Shador is going to be a great quarterback, depending on the situation. Right, that's with a lot of these guys. But yeah, back to Ted. Like I just don't think he has that dog in him. And yeah, we'll see though. You got Brian Thomas though; he has that dog in him definitely. So there's no excuses for Trevor at this point. You got 2 elite, to some receivers. So and you can get a running back. You can get a running back later on day 2, day 3 even. You can get a running back. So yeah, go ahead on Vegas.
You can get a running back on day 3, or you can be the Raiders and take Ashton Genty. This is chalky.
It's Tyler Warren, isn't it? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
No, man, I'm not a big running back in the top 10 guy, but it seems like
unless you have everything put together. If you have, elite left tackle, you have your quarterback, you have a corner, you have your I don't know. It's a luxury pick in my opinion.
Well, and considering, if we're kind of looking at the Raiders timeline, right? You bring in Pete. Pete's got a 2 to 3 year at most window. He's kind of that guy. They brought him in to kind of fundamentally correct the organization, to really get them back on track with someone that knows how to steady a ship. They bring in Geno, who can win some games for you, man. We saw that for the last couple of years. Geno, I don't think, is in that top tier. No one would think that, but Geno's a solid quarterback that can win games for you. Like you said, they've got a good roster, and what better way to try to really right this ship over the next 2 to 3 years than bring in, what some would consider possibly the most explosive player in college football, explosive offensive player, came darn near close to breaking Barry's record, albeit with a couple extra games. But I think they take Genty here. It's the one piece that they're really missing on the offensive side of the ball. And then you think about the Raiders, man. How exciting is that for a franchise? You got a guy in Brock Bowers who could be the best tight end in football next year. He might have been the best tight end in football last year. He was a rookie. And now you're going to bring in Genty. You get these two explosive young playmakers. Let's have some fun in Vegas, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I like all your points there. We even Tom and Don Spytek are going to love this kid too, because everything I've heard, Ashton is an amazing kid. He loves football as well too. So I think the ownership and the GM are gonna like this also. I disagree though. I don't think they're going this way, but it's not my pick, so it doesn't even matter, right? But you are totally correct with Pete Carroll as far as just think about what he did in Seattle. They never rebuilt. They always were retooling, right? And him and John Snyder did it through the draft. And Geno Smith is a solid starter. Brock Bowers is elite. There it goes. Yeah, so adding another elite playmaker alongside Geno Smith, that offense is going to be fun. The whole AFC West is going to be way more competitive than people, I think, than realize. Like, it's not Kansas City's division anymore. Like, the whole division, including the Raiders, are going to be very, very competitive next year. So, this is where it gets fun. Why do I always have the Jets? It seems like there's a few of these teams that we just each always have each year in, year out. So you got New York with your DC from the Lions, Aaron Glenn coming to be the new head coach. The whole thing about him and Aaron Rodgers meeting was hilarious, but I don't want to get into that. They bring in Justin Fields. This team needs help on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. I think, though, they're going to lean towards the coach and lean on the defense side of the ball here in the first round. And they have a plethora of options with the way these last couple picks have gone with the offensive players off the board. So I think the Jets here are going to go this PFS is going to mess me up with these grades, man. Every year it does this. That's crazy. 25. Yeah. So I love Jalen Walker here to New York. Edge rusher. I already talked about him a little bit earlier, but I think they're going to go edge Jalen Walker out of Georgia. And like I said, Jets could go both sides of the ball. They could go offensive line. They could go defensive line here. They could get a receiver. Maybe it could be too early though for the receivers that are left. But yeah, I don't have too much else to hear on the Jets. Kind of boring, but we're here on to Carolina.
So I think the way that this board was falling, I've got the Panthers. I was prepared to write Jalen Walker in the number 8 spot, and then this team has to then kind of figure out, all right, what are we going to do? Because yeah, he seems to be the consensus number 2 off the in terms of the edge guys. I tell you what, I don't know how you felt about just this draft as a whole. I thought this is kind of a down draft across the board. I didn't really love a lot of these prospects, like from any position. There is one position. I know you had a question and you asked what the deepest position. We can talk about that later, but I don't know, man. I was really down on a lot of these guys. What do you think, just real quick, about the whole draft?
Get into it. So that we had 5 questions. Smash that like real quick. We'll answer all 5 of them at the end if you guys get us up to 5 likes. That's all I want. I'm not asking much. But what is the deepest position in this class in your opinion?
So this may be a little surprising to you. I don't think you'd
Okay.
think I'd go here, but I'm looking at I watched a lot of the guys this week. I'm looking at the rankings, looking at the combine stuff, the how many high tier one guys, and that's what I kind of base it off of. I'm like, I think there's a lot of positions that have some high floors, but what's the high ceilings? I like this tight end class, man.
Crazy. I could see it. That's insane because I see a lot of people high on the tight end class, and I love like the top four. But then after that, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. There's like 18 defensive tackles that I love.
Sure,
There's like 30 running back. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
But the ceilings of the tight ends definitely are high. And I am kind of wondering. That's funny that you saw that, but I was wondering like if the media has just seen like all these Brock Bowers, Sam Laporte, or all these like newer kind of tight ends and come into the league and they see that in these tight ends. I don't know. I think Mason Taylor is going to be legit. I think the kid at Penn State's going to be fun. Like the other, yeah. But my deepest position is defensive tackle. But that's funny. I think usually I have 18 to 22 first round grades. This year I have 10. So like it is definitely a down year. But I love like day 2 and day 3, like rounds 3 through 6 are just loaded with starters. That's what a lot of the people I've talked to. There's a lot of starters in this draft. You just gotta find your flavor of Kool-Aid. If you want a speedy running back or you want a big wide receiver or a zone corner, whatever it is. There's lots of different Kool-Aid flavors in here. But yeah, that's funny that it's tight end for you or that tight end I'm lower on.
All right. Yeah, the defensive. I understand what you're saying. Well, there's a lot of bulk guys with the edge guys, the defensive tackles.
But what's crazy, there's something, and there's something different with all of those guys. Like it could be off the field, it could be tape, it could be production, it could be injury. Like with all those defensive tackles and with those with those defensive linemen, it's funny.
All right, so we're going Panthers here. We're at the 8th pick. This team is not easy to try to guess. I mean,
No,
you're looking at the offense. So Bryce Young showed some signs of life. He put together some really good games against the Chiefs, the Eagles. He had a good stretch there at the end. Jury's still kind of out, but you took him number 1. You got to give him another year, obviously. The receiver room needs some work. Chuba Hubbard, that's fine. Tight end room is pretty lacking. The offensive line could obviously use some bolstering. Their defense is all kinds of a mess. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they moved. I think we talked about that. I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers are active here. If a team maybe wanted to snag for a Tyler Warren, if they really liked one of the last tackles, if they wanted a Membu up here. I think that the Panthers, if they're sticking and they're picking here, they really need trench help. I'm going to go with the guy, same kind of region out of Ole Miss, big boy, Walter Nolan. We got a head rub out of Jacob.
I love it.
I mean, it's just when you're picking here in this spot, when you're a team, like, again, being an Eagles fan, man, like, do the smart thing. When you got a bunch of positions that when your team, you need to bolster depth, like, do the important thing. Like, build through your trenches. I don't know if they will. This is, again, a wild card team for me here, but I think this is just a smart pick from the Panthers to start rebuilding. Put them next to Derek Brown and really try to bolster up your defensive line and your, kind of command that division that really can get after some of these quarterbacks.
Yeah, 100%. The head rub was not negative at all. This is my favorite defensive tackle. It's just hilarious. We have him going over Mason Graham, which no one would have thought of 3 weeks ago. But I've been pounding the table. Those short arms mean something for him, too. If they mean something for Will Campbell, come on, guys. Right? No, I'm kidding. But I love this pick. And I agree with you as well. Carolina is a definitely big trade back candidate. They have lots of holes and needs on that team. So trade back, get some more bullets to put in the chamber for picks, later in day 2 and late day 3. So Walter Nolan, this might be high for some people. I have him higher on my board than a lot of people. So I love that you went there. And with them trading back, I think they could, get him a little bit later. There's some off the field stuff, some stuff that, he just doesn't, love football. He's late, all this and that, but the tape doesn't show it. This kid is all over the place, and there's lots of tools there that you can unlock. So I love that for Carolina. And the Saints. This is another fun one where they got Kellen Moore, another offensive coordinator from the Eagles, coming in, and Shador. Once the Derek Carr news came out about his shoulder and all this, everyone's like, oh, Shador. But if you think about it, Eric, who are Kellen Moore's quarterbacks when he's been offensive coordinator? It's been Dakota, it's been Just INT, and it's been Jalen Hurts. So Shador isn't any of those guys. It's Jackson Dart. Now, am I going to take Jackson Dart here at 9? I don't know. I like him, but I'm not going to take him at 9, especially the New Orleans Saints can have other holes and needs on your whole football team. So let me look here through my board and see. I mean, this is beautiful if you're Mickey Loomis. And, he's always willing to go up and go down. He's going to trade just like Howie over there in Philly. But I think what got a run coming here of these defensive linemen, I think what they're going to do is they're going to go edge. And let's see where they have Mikal. Yep, 38. That is crazy. He's going way before 38. PFF is terrible with their grades. Wish they'd let me put mine in here. But edge, Mikal Williams out of Georgia is not going far, just down the road to New Orleans to help that new defense there in New Orleans. They got Cam Jordan. He's been there. He just re-signed a 1-year deal. This is his 15th year, I think, if I'm correct. So, he's get up there. He's going to pass the torch on to Mikal Williams. I think he's a great mentor. Cam Jordan is as New Orleans Saint. Like, if you think Saints, you think him. And I think he's going to be a great mentor to Mikal Williams, who basically is like cut cloth from Cam Jordan, like big, athletic, fast, strong dude. So if you're a Saints fan, you got to be hyped about this. But yeah, we're going to move on to Chicago. I mean, any takes on that one? We got a run of defensive linemen, though.
Yeah, I think at 9, you touched on the need at quarterback. They do need a quarterback. I think Kellen Moore's probably having a lot of active discussions about what kind of guy he wants, how they feel about Derek Carr. Derek Carr possibly kind of fits in that mold of someone that could work in the system. Derek Carr may not play a lot of football this year. And new coach, you kind of want to start with a fresh guy a lot of times. So I think maybe Jackson Dart is a candidate. You could see the Saints trading back into day 1, maybe later in the round. So I do think we'll put a little pin on that, to your point. But yeah, I think if you're sitting here and the Saints are picking, maybe there'll be a lot of Howie imitators and say, hey, we're not going to overthink this. Take the best defensive guys on one of the best defense in the best conference and just let's keep it moving, and it'll probably work out for us. So I like the pick there with Williams.
Yeah, you could never have enough defensive linemen. Just rotate them in and out and just keep them fresh and go after these athletic quarterbacks. So and you nailed it on the head there. That was the team I was going to have. There's 2 trades I was thinking about, and the Saints were one of those teams that were going to come back into the first round and get their quarterback. The other one is either the Giants or the Browns are going to be one of those other teams that jump into the first round again and draft a quarterback. We'll see how that goes though. But yeah, Chicago.
All right, so Chicago is another team that could go a lot of different directions. The consensus on a lot of the mocks, I mean, I think pretty much I'd say 50%, 60% of the mocks, which is a hefty number, are showing them getting a tight end. If Warren's there, they want to take Warren. If Genty falls, they're going to take Genty. They bring in Ben Johnson, the offensive guy from Detroit. He's going to want to get his guys. But man, I think if they're sitting in this position, and I'm thinking about the Lions team last year, the Lions really didn't incorporate Laporta last year heavy into their offense. He wasn't a focal point. It was the running game. It was the receivers. And really, if we're being honest, the most important part about that Lions team was the guys up front, was the guys blocking. And what did we see Caleb Williams do all of last year? Lay on his back, get sacked, run for his life. This offensive line, they added some pieces. They brought in a Tooney. Jonah Jackson they got some guards in there. I don't love their tackles. I think if they're sitting in this spot, this tackle class is not really strong. There's still a few guys here, according to our board, that could be considered here. I'm going to have them going Armand Membu here out of Missouri, plug and play guy. Some people think he's the best tackle. A lot of people have those reservations about Campbell, thinking, is he a guard? Is he a tackle? No one really has those reservations, whether it's right or wrong or not. But like, this guy is viewed as a really solid high floor tackle. And you got to protect your young guy. You drafted Caleb number 1 overall. It'd be a disservice for Ben Johnson offense to not have some confident, pass blockers.
Yeah, I love the pick. I mean, we've seen Armin Nabu in the top 5, the top 7, and a lot of mock drafts. So you definitely got to protect your quarterback. I think the only knock against him is he's just a little raw, and he's only played right tackle the whole time he was at Missouri. So can he play left tackle? We don't know. We've never seen him on that side. So I think Ben Johnson will do a little bit of magic with his coaches and be able to see. I mean, this kid just turned 21 years old, so there's still a lot left in there that you can find. He's going to be great too in that run scheme with Swift, and I'm sure they're going to find a running back later in this draft as we keep pounding on. But I love that pick. Never can have enough big men on your team. But we got San Francisco, who is a massive rebuild. We saw them get rid of Deebo Samuel and so many guys on the defense. Not even going to go through it. So they could go lots of different ways here too. I think though, with the way that the board is kind of falling, we've seen Mason Graham fall. There's some edge rushers on the board. There's also some corners that we love. I think, though, the San Francisco 49ers are going to go ahead and stop the Mason Graham fall and take defensive tackle out of Michigan. I already said about the kid. He has short arms. I just think Kenneth Grant, who's their other defensive tackle, we might talk about tonight, kind of overshadowed him, in my opinion. Like, I hear all the talk about Mason Graham. He's a great kid and all this and that. I'm not as high on him as a lot of people are. Interested in kind of how you feel about Mason Graham, but I don't think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch really care about that. I think that they are going to put him on a defensive line, and he's going to be a great pro for them, and they kind of like those guys. But
yeah, and that's before we even start talking about the makeup in this pick. If the board falls this way, that's a great pick for the 49ers. Their organization should be thrilled. They are such a weird team. I mean, think about their like roller coasters of it's NFC Championship, it's Super Bowl, it's 6 wins, then it's back, Super Bowl contending, and then fall back down to earth. It's really weird, their up and down swings. So hopefully maybe they stay down again in another year here. But they got a lot of work to do. Their roster completely turned over. They're putting a lot of stock that Purdy's the guy. But this is a good pick. The years they were successful, they had really good defensive line play, really good linebacker play. I really like the pick here for Mason Graham.
I think they kind of should have retooled it a little, not necessarily rebuild it last year. They kind of thought that they, still had one more in it, and then the whole CMC situation. I don't know, just all the drama with the receivers and stuff. But they should have just retooled it a little bit better last year, and now they're in the situation they are. So we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure Kittle didn't report either, which will be interesting. He wants to go to Tennessee. So your favorite team is on the clock here with the Dallas Cowboys. Look at that.
How about the Cowboys? I feel bad. I kind of feel guilty in a way, like looking at the odd or the even teams I get this year. Yeah, I got a lot of fun, man. I got the Cowboys. I get the Eagles. I get the Lions. I get the Bears. I mean, I get like the Seahawks, the Broncos. I got like all these fun teams. I know you got the Bengals, the Steelers. You got some AFC North action in there, but I got some fun teams here, man. The Cowboys. I'll be really, really interested to hear what you think. And
I mean, I'm a trade back guy, but the thing is you have to find someone that's going to dance with you, right? Who's coming up? Who's the player they're going to go for? So, they have a lot of needs too, but they're right there too. I don't know, man. This team is funny, and the whole coaching situation. I love Shadia, but it just was weird. And Jerry Jones, man, I don't know. I watched a press conference the other day, and it finally looks like Steven has control of that team. So and I say in the show year in year out, I pound the table for Will McClay. Even though he's not the GM, he is definitely the GM, like the director of scouting there in Dallas. Like that man is very smart. And they draft very well. So whoever it is here, it should be a good pick.
So this is actually pretty tough. I mean, you look at this roster, it's not an incomplete roster. You've got a lot of high talent guys at some of these positions. The Dak thing will be interesting. They could use a receiver. They could, they've got some kind of second tier running backs. The offensive line needs some retooling. Their defense is all kinds of a mess outside of some of their top guys like Parsons. I like Bland a lot. Trayvon Diggs is kind of a roller coaster of a player. I think, again, I think this year a lot of these teams will have watched, especially with the Super Bowl fresh on their mind. They saw what lost the Chiefs the Super Bowl for the most part, you can't protect. They saw what won the Super Bowl for the most part, the Eagles front four. I think you've got, a lot of people are thinking, hey, maybe get a receiver, a little Matthew Golden, Texas boy. I think they go another kid from Texas. I think they should try to shore up their offensive line. I think they go Kelvin Banks. I think they bring him in, keep him at home. And they do. I think it's a smart pick. Again, I will never fault a team for taking offensive and defensive linemen. And I think I wouldn't like the Cowboys to do that because I think it'd be a smart pick, but I think it's what they should do and what they could do.
Yeah, I'm sitting over here huffing and puffing because Mike McDaniel and Tua are like, dang, we wanted him to come over here. But yeah, I love that pick. And I think Calvin can play. He can play anywhere if you really want him to, outside of center. I think you can line him at guard if you need to, right tackle, left tackle. So I think he that's a great pick. Like you said, staying home. So and you never can have enough big men. So seeing these runs on these defensive offensive linemen, I think you're going to see a lot of that tomorrow, especially in the first round. So we got the roller coaster of the Miami Dolphins. I feel like them and the Saints are like the teams that Miami has a quarterback, I guess, yay, nay, but they also have so many different holes and just question marks just around the team. We had Tyreek want to trade. Jalen Ramsey is going to get shipped out tomorrow. Like, it's crazy there in Miami. So what do they do here? I think they're going to stop the fall of one of my higher players. My CPFF has them somewhat highly ranked here at 11th, but they're going to go corner Jahdae Barron here out of Texas. So you got the Texas kids here back to back. Kelvin Banks tackled to Dallas, and then Jahdae Barron to the Miami Dolphins. I just think with the whole Jalen Ramsey stuff, you have a massive need on that side of the ball. Jahdae Barron is my number 2 corner outside of Travis Hunter. I know a lot of people have Will Johnson as number 2, but there's some injury questions there, and he didn't run the combine. So I just think Jahdae Barron is perfect for what Miami needs. Like I said, I wish that Kelvin Banks fell to me because I would have debated between that, but you made it easy for me going cornerback out of Texas here.
Yeah, a lot of people love this kid. I think he put some really good games together towards the end of the season. A lot of people have him as their number 1 guy. First corner off the board going at 13. I'd like to go back and see, does that happen often, or what is the average first time a corner was taken? I can't really think off the top of my head.
No, think about it, because remember wasn't Sauce top 5, if not top 3? Then we had my boy Derek Stingley, who surprised everyone. Didn't Houston take him 3rd overall or whatever it was? And then we had your boy Jeff Okudah, Detroit 3rd overall, I believe. Right? So, yeah. That's Will Johnson right there, Eric. Big Ten guy. Yeah, that's who Will Johnson is, Jeff Okudah. Sorry. But, yeah, so, that's a great – I'm glad you brought that up. 13 being the first corner. But if you look at it, all these are premium positions outside of the running back. And did we have the tight end go? Yeah. No, the tight end hasn't gone yet. So just the way that this class kind of falls, and there isn't – what is Roger Goodell going to say for Travis Hunter, though, right? Like, is he going to say receiver? I told you I could talk 30 minutes about it. We're back to him already.
He should go like the the high school or college thing, just say athlete. Just
Oh,
just do it.
dude, you were so close. I tweeted out the other day, and I wish you saw it. Would have got it. Football player, man. The kid's a football player, but yeah, athlete was
I
awesome
like that.
too. Yes, football player out of the University of Colorado. But it will be kind of cool too if he says, cornerback, wide receiver, or whatever, receiver, cornerback. And then also, how does Vegas grade that too, right? Like, I'm sure there's bets on it. We can't bet on the draft where we're at, but like, there's bets on when does the first receiver go or that. So I wonder how they grade that. Like, is it how Roger calls it? That's gonna be crazy, Eric. Yeah, we'll get into that. And follow us on X, and we might retweet something that we find on that. But on to the Colts if you don't have anything else on Miami.
All right. So the Colts at 14. This is going to feel really chalky compared to
Back
the
to the
consensus.
top.
But as the board falls, they probably shouldn't make this pick. I think they have too many other needs to kind of go for a guy here. But I think if the board falls, they're going to take the top tight end. They're going to take Tyler Warren. Anthony Richardson needs the help. I don't love the Pittman Pierce Downs combo all that much. I'm not an Anthony Richardson guy at all. But we could have a discussion on that a different day. But they need to do it. If you're going to invest in this guy, this high pick, you're going to need to get him weapons. Tyler Warren's the best tight end in the draft. I think he's from Hanover, right down the road.
Yep.
So shout out to Central Virginia, Tyler Warren. And what I will say, I didn't watch a ton of Penn State. Obviously, they were in the playoff. They were defeated by my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But I really do like I obviously watched that full game. When you watched Penn State's offense was abysmal. Penn State didn't have a quarterback. Penn State didn't really have a run game. They didn't have any outside receivers. The only guy that was making plays that whole night was this one kid, and Notre Dame knew that and still didn't have answers for Tyler Warren. And when you see a guy like that, I love those dudes because it's like there's nothing you can do to defend that. We're going to get him the ball, whether it's these shallow screens, whether it's over the middle, pop passes, whether they lined him up taking snaps at quarterback.
I was about to say, yeah, exactly.
It's like we need Penn State. You knew Penn State wanted to give him the ball. Notre Dame knew it, and they couldn't do anything about it, albeit, again, Notre Dame won the game. Go Irish. I love those dudes. I think Indy – I don't think they should really go in this direction here, but I like the pick just because I like the kid. So
yeah, it is chalky. One thing that you'll see this on ESPN or wherever you watch it tomorrow, guys. But when was the last time the Colts drafted a tight end there?
I don't know.
2003. You know who that was?
It couldn't be Dallas Clark. Who would be?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean that worked out pretty good. So we'll see if it works out for the Colts. And you see Ryan in the chat, and I was going to bring this up also. Some people have Colston Loveland tight end one over Tyler Warren. So I mean, I don't, but some people do. Tyler Warren is a phenomenal tight end, football player, athlete. I think he will help out Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson, whoever Shane Steichen decides to run the helms here in Indianapolis. On to the Falcons, though, for all my fans down there in the dirty. I think we all kind of know this is going to be defense. I think they kind of want to trade back into the mid-20s. This is going to be probably where I had someone come up and get Shador or Jackson Dart. I'm not going to do it, though. I think that they're going to, if they would stick a pick or maybe they'll get this guy a little bit later, they're going to help the edge because Atlanta Falcons have the least amount of sacks in I don't know how many years, but it's really, really bad. I've had a guy over, I think, 8 or 9, and it's probably been a decade since we've been doing this thing. But I'm going to have him go Mike Green, edge, Marshall, who isn't a stranger of sacks. I'm pretty sure he led the FBS last year in sacks.
17.
There you go. Thank you, my man, right there. Best co-host in the world. But this is perfect for Raheem Morris there in Atlanta. I think Arthur Blank is going to love this. They don't really care down there if these kids have off-the-field problems or whatnot. Just give me that production, and we'll feed you and your family, and it's going to be good. So I think Mike Green will be a nice thing for my friends down there in Atlanta, getting after those quarterbacks in that NFC South. On to Arizona, and it's funny. I have notes for everyone, and the next two. So for Cincinnati, it says defense, Walter Nolan, which Eric took my guy.
Sorry.
And then Arizona, who fucking knows? I just don't know what these guys are going to do. I know you had a couple picks like this earlier who we said who knows what they're going to do, but Arizona Cardinals, very quiet off season and like nothing noteworthy that I could put in here. What you got, Eric?
Well, yeah, to touch on your Atlanta pick, I like the pick and green. That's interesting, but when you think about it, I can't remember the last time the Falcons had any type of even competent pass rush. So
What's crazy though is I don't remember who the D tackle was. He had like 6 sacks against Dakota like 2 or 3 years ago. I can't remember who the kid is. I'm pretty sure got paid too
like
after
Grady
that. But
Jarrett or something.
it wasn't Grady though. I don't believe it was Grady Jarrett. Yeah, it was somebody else. But yeah, that was mind blowing to me. Also, they just never had anyone put up a whole bunch, and yeah.
All right, so we have the Cardinals, and yeah, we look at this roster, man. The Cardinals are one of the most both like boring but also interesting teams, I think, this year because it's like, what are we doing with Kyler at this point? Why haven't they been fielding calls? It's kind of strange that they have this like relationship. They just can't quit with Kyler, but everyone kind of feels like it's over, but it's never over. He keeps coming back as their starter. They're often, you took Harrison, high. You're going to expect him to improve. They paid Trey McBride as I think the top tight end in football over the offseason. They're investing a lot in him. They went Paris Johnson a few years back.
Which we nailed that one.
We did. I think that was your pick. So the offensive, the offensive side of the ball has got some pieces. Their defense, they did bring some guys in. Obviously, they signed Josh Sweat from the Eagles to a big deal. They're going to expect a lot of him. Part of me is like, are they going to draft like another linebacker in the first round? Like it feels like they do. I don't think so. I think if the board falls the way it is, they need defense. I think they'll probably take, regardless of how we feel about him, a guy like Will Johnson, the corner out of Michigan. You take a guy, corners are so valuable. Again, if you're mirroring what some of these top teams were doing last year, like the Eagles, man, the Eagles had dudes at every, being able to cover these guys at all positions. Will Johnson's 6'2", he's a bigger corner. So maybe you think that he could be an answer to some of these larger wide receivers, larger tight ends. And he could be the best DB on their board. So I think they'd go Will Johnson with this pick.
I love it. Yep, I agree. I think he actually does fit Jonathan Gannon's system too. The problem with Will Johnson for me is just when the ball's over his head, that's when there's a problem. When he reacts to the ball and it's in front of him, he keeps it in front of him, he's fine. But it is interesting also he didn't run a 40 at his pro day. I know he had the injury stuff and whatnot, but interesting he wouldn't run for coaches. So yeah, Arizona is super interesting, a big wild card. We've talked about this a lot. I think they could be another team that trades. Is there a dance partner that wants to trade up with them? So I like that pick there for Arizona. Well, my Cincinnati Bengals. We know what's going on in Cincinnati. Actually, real quick, let's rewind back to the Arizona thing.
What is going on in Cincinnati, Jacob?
Well, as far as what I don't know what's up with Katie. Okay, I don't know what the owner's daughter is saying about Trey, and then Trey Henderson going on the Pat McAfee show. It's great. I told you they're going to pay Jamar, and I told you they're going to pay T. So they got that done. They just need to figure out the defense. But yeah, who knows really though? They are going to get upgrades to their stadium. Though hopefully they stay in Cincinnati. The stupid rumors about them moving aren't necessarily true. But this is definitely defense here. Now, what level of defense do you go? I know a lot of people are saying if they go defensive end, then Trey Hendrickson is more apt to get traded. Like we've talked about that, you can never have enough of these guys. Like we saw what Philadelphia did to Kansas City in the Super Bowl. So you never can have enough of these guys. Now, which one are they going to go with? That is a great question. I'm glad that you asked. I don't think it's going to be Donovan Ezraku out of Boston College. I already like some of the guys that we have taken. It's basically between Shamar Stewart, who has some production questions, but is a freak athlete and has all the measurables in the world, against James Pierce Jr., who has stuff going off the field. Like I said, all these guys, right? But we know Cincinnati, they don't really care what you do off the field as long as you have production. So they like these kids. Let's see what they say here, though. Yeah, Walter Nolan, my guy. I told you, Mike Green also is who I wanted, but I stole him earlier. So we're gonna go the Tennessee kid. And like I said, you never can have enough edge rushers. I think we go James Pierce Jr. here. Um, Cincinnati is just they're right there. Joe Burrow got to stay healthy. You always have a chance when you have a Joe Burrow. So I'm just gonna give it off to the Seahawks with a who dey.
Yeah, the Bengals. That's what they need to do. If they're there, I like that pick a lot. So this, your Seattle Seahawks at 18. What are we gonna do, man? This team it's so strange. They got a new coach last year, and now they've got a completely different offense. I mean, all the receivers are gone. You bring in a rival Cooper Kupp from your from the Rams down the street. You bring in your boy Sam Darnold, getting ready to sling that thing around here in old Seattle. The defense. Again, look at this roster, man. I like bringing in Leonard Williams. I've always thought he was pretty good. I know he's been in the league for a little bit. Drawn Reed, that they could really use some help in the interior. They could use some help in the exterior. They could use some help on the back end. Defensive-minded head coach. You've got a lot of defensive guys still on the board. Also interesting, we've only seen one wide receiver go off the board. I don't think this Seahawks go wide receiver here, but I think that's interesting, and we'll see how that falls if there's truly kind of a gap here in receiver. This is a tough pick for me. If there wasn't the medical stuff, I could see a Jahad Campbell going here. I don't think he's going to go this high. I do think that maybe they snagged the best safety on the board, Georgia kid, Malachi Starks. The Ravens had good secondary play. The Seahawks, historically, over this last decade or two, have known for secondary play, safeties that can cover and tackle. I mean, I think looking at the back end, Kobe Bryant, Devon Witherspoon, you feel really good about. The safety play with Julian Love and Pritchett, I wouldn't feel really, really good about. I think you'd want to bring in a guy that could be a leader here. I'm going to mix it up and go Malachi Starks. I know a lot of people didn't have him going this high, but what do you think about that for your Seahawks?
No, I love it. You're right. He's not necessarily he's kind of a Kyle Hamilton, a little bit different, but yeah. I love that pick. I would probably go Greg Zabel, just because that kid's a dog. We might talk about him tonight. He can play all positions offensive line, and Seattle needs help on the offensive line, and especially if you think about Minnesota and Sam Darnold last year, the last games or whatever, he was just getting destroyed. So you definitely got to help Sam. He's not going to be a runner or whatnot. But yeah, you kind of touched on the Tyler Lockett's out of there. They traded DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh. So it's JSN and it's Cooper Kupp and it's Jake Bobo. So they could go offense. We're not spoiled like we have been, though, previously with a loaded receiver class outside of Travis Hunter. And, we haven't had my number 2 receiver go off the board. And we talked about Ted McMillan. So there's just not a receiver here for Seattle. So Malachi Starks is a great pick, and like I said, I would have gone offensive line, but you need help in the secondary, and so we're on to Tampa Bay here. You kind of mentioned it that you were might go with the injury prone or the injury concern here, and I'm assuming you're talking about linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So the fall for him is going to stop. I know a lot of people are on high on him, but the injury concern about the shoulder, I believe, has come out. I think with the Devontae David and everything there in Tampa Bay on the one more year, we'll see kind of pass the reins on to another SEC linebacker and Jahad Campbell. This kid was going to be an edge rusher, but Alabama's full of edge rushers. They just grow them in their backyard. So he actually moved to linebacker. So he might be able to move into defensive line edge if you need to, or he can play that edge off the linebacker in that schema in Tampa Bay. But linebacker Alabama, Jahed Campbell, Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Thoughts on that one?
This pick, I want to pull up Tampa's roster. Tampa Bay is such a funny team to think about. So obviously they lose their offensive coordinator. Their team kind of feels like it stays mostly intact. This is a team who beat the Lions, beat the shit out of the Eagles. I know AJ Brown didn't play, but like they ran them boys off the field in the heat in the early part of the season. They gave Washington a really competitive game in the playoffs. Baker gave some juice to this team. Like this team doesn't feel like they're that far away. And looking at their defensive unit right now, Anthony Walker, Levante David, say what you will about him, Yaya Dispy. I mean, this is a team that could use kind of the core linebacker like Campbell and the best kind of pure linebacker in this draft. So I certainly like the pick there.
Yep. They could also go corner too. I thought about Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky. They lose Carlton Davis to New England, I believe. But yeah, you're totally right. Like if Tampa Bay has a good draft and finds 2, 3, 4 starters, like they're going to be right in the thick of things in the NFC South. But yeah, we're on to Denver.
All right, Denver.
Sean Payton, who's on the phone trying to get Ashton Genty, man. He called me to see if I could get a hold of Jacksonville. I'm like, I don't know, man.
Man, yeah. What does this team do? So obviously, Bo Nix comes in, has a good rookie season, albeit he's going to be like 29, 30 years old next year. So we'll see. This offensive unit is, I don't know, man. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Jaleel McLaughlin. Like you're going to trot these guys out. They brought in Evan Ingram, who is fantastic when he plays for his 9 games a year. The offensive line I think is pretty good. McGlinchey and Bowles, good bookends there. The defense was also good. Could use a lot of pieces. We could go a lot of different directions here. This is where if you're Peyton, like. Do you really? I know a lot of guys are going Hampton here. Are we going?
He's never done that, right? But has he? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to go.
Talk about it all day. You can get a running back tomorrow. On Saturday or Friday.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
But then again, they do have that luxury where like they don't have a big need. They found their quarterback last year, right? He went and got his guy, and so and he's gonna go find his guy. Like remember when they went and get Davenport? It didn't work out, but they went and traded up like next future first to go get Marcus Davenport. So like they're trading this pick, but that's where this makes it tough, right? Because we're not making trades. So
well. I'm gonna go. I don't think this hasn't been mocked a lot to them. I see kind of a wave of offense to the Broncos, and I think sometimes in these mocks, like you see offensive head coach, you see young quarterback, you almost automatically want to default to like this team is going to go offense, but then I think we see the reverse happen where sometimes these coaches say, I trust my scheme. Like you said, I can get a guy in day 2. I can get some guys in day 3. We're going to make it work. I'm going to kind of go different here. West Coast guy. I'm going to go Derek Harmon out of Oregon.
Yeah.
This defensive line needs some help. It does. And when you're playing in the NFC or the AFC West, we see how you beat really anyone, but you beat Patrick Mahomes. You get pressure. You get big boys on the front line. He's a big boy. I would like for them to go here and then worry about maybe some of those running back, wide receiver concerns day 2, 3.
Yeah, he just loves taking my picks, doesn't he? Like I had locked and loaded. Like Pitt's problems have to be over here struggling. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, oh my gosh. They don't have a second round pick. You know, they traded for DK Metcalf. So we talked about the scenarios earlier where these teams in the first round are gonna jump into the back into the first round. But you usually need a second round pick to do that. So Pittsburgh likely isn't one of those teams. Now, what I think is going to happen, though, Eric, with Pittsburgh, what I think they're going to do, and by the way, I love the Derek Harmon pick to Denver. You're never going to have enough big guys. What I think is going to happen tomorrow night, it might not be tomorrow night, it might be Friday night, but I think we're going to have Pat McAfee announce that Aaron Rodgers has signed a 1 year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that doesn't mean they can't draft a guy, you know, Friday night or tomorrow night. I'm not going to draft a guy here. I know Mike Tomlin loves Shador Sanders, and they had a great meeting, and him and ownership had a great meeting as well. Which can't say the same about the rest of all of the league with Shador, but like he's not everyone's flavor. I think Shador would do great in Pittsburgh. I could take him right here, and basically lock us in having one right, but I don't know if that's really what's going to happen. I know I'm kind of going back and forth. Eric messed me up with going Derek Harmon. And he took my other defensive tackle that I was going to go here. Is there any other one that I have high enough, though? Because that's kind of where I'd go. Kenneth Grant would be a great pick here. I don't think that's where I'm going to go, though. Pittsburgh is an interesting team, though, because they could go running back. And if they do, it won't be Omari. I don't think. I think it'll be more Travion Henderson. Dang, you really did mess me up, but that's awesome. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go Travion Henderson, who not a lot of people have going in the first round. Fuck, oh my, this is what I'm talking about. This is crazy. Cam Scotty is not a top 50 player. My gosh, BFF. Anyway, Traven Henderson, like the dude probably is the most all-around back. He's gonna be a way better run blocker than Ashton Genty. He's gonna be able to catch the ball in the backfield. I think he's gonna be able to play all three downs. We saw Najee Harris leave and go to LA, and we know Mike Tomlin, has a defensive team, and when you can just hand the ball off to your running back, that helps your defense. I love Jalen Warren. But yeah, so I think I'm going to go running back, Ohio State, Trayvon Henderson to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That would be interesting. Though, I kind of trust, for whatever reason, the Steelers seem to, Najee Harris, you could say about him what you want, but the Steelers do seem to have this good innate ability to find guys, certainly wide receivers, but they're running backs as well. They've gotten good production historically. This would be if Shador's on the board at this pick. This will be, I don't know if they'll have cameras on him, if he's going to be at home. I don't think he's going to the draft from what I hear, but it'll be interesting to see what the kind of chatter is here. But yeah, no, I like the pick. It's kind of classic Tomlin. It's a fills a need, and right, the positions are kind of getting scarce here with some of the top talent. So I don't hate this pick at all.
Yeah, they could be one of the teams that is trying to trade up and get one of the defensive line, or they could be a team that finds someone that trades up and they could trade back. And then I could see Trayvon getting to them in the later first or on day two. But Derek Harmon really messed me up there, Eric. Los Angeles Chargers, though, my favorite quarterback and your favorite coach.
Man, this is I know you love the Chargers. You love Justin. Come on,
I know, right?
Tell the people that you secretly love him.
He's super elite, right? Like if yeah,
you've loved him since day one. Don't even try to play.
I definitely do.
All right, so we've got the Chargers here, who are in year 2 of the Jim Harbaugh era. Really good first season under him. You just talked about Najee Harris has come over. Their receiver room, Lad McConkey, you feel good about. They bring back Quentin, or they brought back Mike Williams. They've
Mike
got
Williams,
Quentin
yeah.
Johnston, who can't really catch footballs, which has been embarrassing. The defense was really good. I really trust that Harbaugh is going to continue having that unit strong. I'm kind of toying between two different options here.
Are they Michigan guys or no?
One is a Michigan guy. Loveland would be a need. Obviously, Disley is and Conklin are their top 2 tight ends. Not great. But you talked about this guy earlier, and I'm looking at this depth chart. They've got some first. I mean, they brought in Mekhi Becton to play guard from the Eagles. Zion Johnson is a former number 1 pick at the other guard spot. They've got Slater and Joe Alt at the tackles. Bradley Bozeman, he's year 7. Again, Becton's kind of had some injury stuff here and there, aging guy. I think a guy that you mentioned in Gray Zabel could play center. You could move him at guard. Harbaugh's obviously his thing, his entire career has been, we're going to run the football effectively. We're going to control the clock. We're going to have offensive line play. And I think you do everything you continue to do to keep a top-tier talent like Justin healthy and upright. I'm just going to go Gray Zabel here. I think it's a smart pick. He might be one of the best interior offensive linemen in a scarce draft class. I'm going to go Gray Zabel here with the Chargers pick.
And what's crazy is there's not a center until like Saturday, probably. Like I don't think the center class is very weak. So yeah, I love that pick for the Chargers, even with both the missing guys being on there. Joey Bosa did leave. I think he went to Buffalo. So they could use some D line help, but again, never can have enough guys on the offensive line either. So now we're on to Green Bay, which is where the draft will be held. I'm so glad that we're not there. Cold, terrible, right? Is Jair Alexander going to get traded? They've been talking about it for months and months, but nothing of it. Are they going to draft a receiver? Who knows? They haven't done it in how long? But let's see what Green Bay does. I think this is between 2 guys for me. Yeah, it's either corner here or it is going to be Donovan Ezra-Rockaboo out of Boston College, and I think that's the way that I'm going to go. Interesting. Emeka Ibuka is the highest on PFF. But yeah, I'm going to go Donovan Ezra-Rockaboo. I don't have a lot on this guy as far as nothing too much like I did the other guys, but never can have enough defensive linemen. Like I said, they could go corner here and Maxwell Harrison because with the trade loomings of Jair Alexander with the contract disputes and stuff. Another boring pick for me with the Green Bay Packers. Any thoughts there? You could go into Minnesota.
No, my first thought is I'm glad you picked him so I didn't have to pronounce his last name. No, I think edge guy for the Packers is the smart play. They had some issues against the run. I think we saw that kind of in the playoff game and kind of towards the end of the season. Again, you're picking at the latter end of this draft. Some of the top tier guys may be down, but yeah, I mean, you're getting a big boy. I think he was right behind Green last year, 16 and a half sacks. So production numbers are off the chart. Always love those type of guys that you have the intangibles, but then you also put it on paper, right? So I do like the pick here.
Yeah, and I think I nailed it too as a Rockboo.
I like it, yeah.
And you usually you're the one that I go to for all the pronunciations. Minnesota, another team that they're kind of like the the Broncos and the Rams. All these teams are in the playoffs, right? So I mean, they all are going to be pretty loaded. But Minnesota is another team that looks pretty solid and ready to hand the reins over to JJ McCarthy. I feel like it's going to be defense. But what you got for us?
Well, as much as I would love to pair Colston Loveland back up with that, I'm not gonna do that, but that'd be pretty fun.
I love that.
This team defense got very good production last year. They started off the gates really, really hot. I know they spurted down the end of the season. The offensive unit, I mean, is in terms of their receiver room, obviously Jefferson is your number 1, 2, 3 receiver in the league. That's not changing. Addison put up some monster games. Aaron Jones is still producing. You've got Hawkinson, who I know there's I don't know if there's talks about. I wouldn't be surprised if he's someone that they try to maybe move off of with the big contract. That wouldn't shock me. Their offensive line needs some help, man.
Okay.
Their offensive line needs a lot of help. And I'm going to go with where's my boy here? With Josh Simmons.
Yeah.
Out of Ohio State.
I love it. There's the injury he had, but I think he's going to be all right. He actually is my highest rated offensive lineman, if I'm right. Put aside the injury risk. Yep, he definitely is. So tons of talent here. Another young kid. That's a lot of things. Besides Will Campbell and Grace Abel, like these offensive linemen are all young. So yeah, I love the pick. You can never have enough big men. Protect your first round pick there, JJ McCarthy. They're going to have a little run here, though, because I think that Houston needs some offensive line help, too, because we saw them just, literally get rid of the whole offensive line room of the coaches. They traded away Larry Tunzel. They got rid of Kenyon Green. Who's the other kid? Shaq Mason, also not kid. That's a grown-ass man.
Kenyon Green, future Pro Bowler for the Eagles. You marked that down with the Stoutland University.
Wasn't he? Yeah, because of your fucking offensive line coach over there.
He was, I think, the lowest graded offensive lineman in the league last year. If I'm not
mistaken. He was a first round pick, no?
Yes, he was.
And I'm pretty sure we might have nailed that one too, Eric, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, that's crazy, man. We do so good at these things. But yeah, I think another thing we nailed with this team. Remember when it was C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson? We called that. And the funny thing about that stream is I said Will Anderson, then C.J. Stroud. But I was like, no, they would do it the other way around. You get your quarterback first, and then you trade. Which is funny. In this draft, we're going to have the Giants get Abdul Carter, and then or the Browns get Travis Hunter, and then trade up and get the quarterback. It's just funny how every year is different. But back to Houston, he got his boy Will Anderson, Alabama kid, to run that defense and to kind of be the quarterback and the leader on the defense. So I think, with all the offensive line changes, I think he's going to go back to Alabama and get an offensive lineman, and it's Tyler Booker. Great kid. You talk to the people down in Tuscaloosa, and there's nothing but great things about this kid. He's basically the same thing as our boy Will Campbell over there in Baton Rouge, but Tyler Booker is going to be a great pro for the next decade, and he's Houston's pick at 25.
Yeah, they need to do it, and especially you look at from a number standpoint, C.J. Stroud definitely had a pretty big dip in production. He had that second year regression, and what's the best way to correct that? Get the man some help, get him more time in the pocket. That kind of cures a lot of stuff for these young quarterbacks. So yeah, I love the pick. It's the smart thing, especially kind of picking towards the back end here in this draft.
Yep, for sure. Never can have enough big men.
All right, so your Los Angeles Rams. Sean McVay, the fighting Sean McVay. So they bring Stafford back. There was some talk about him retiring. They lose Cooper Kupp, but bring in Devontae Adams. You've got Puka as your clear-cut number one. The offensive line, I think, held up pretty decent. They're an aging offensive line. I think that this is one of those instances where a team gets so shell-shocked from one kind of single game, or in this case, 2 games, versus Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they had to sit there regular season. I think he went for 250, 260. And then in the playoff game, they had to watch Saquon Barkley run all over you. And there was no answers. Snow, shine, LA, Philly, grass, turf, whatever it was. They had no answers for Saquon Barkley. And it had to have been such an awful gut feeling because this team could have beat the Eagles, man. They had a real shot there. This team needs some help on the interior of of the defensive line. Jared Verse had a really good rookie season, but I think we've got a guy for that. Where's my other Michigan man, Kenneth Grant, who kind of a lot of people have him kind of in this range, like around in the mid-20s in terms of their ranking in this class. So I think he's kind of fallen right where he should. I think Kenneth Grant's a good pick, safe pick. Michigan defense obviously has a great track record. And I think you're kind of picking for need here, but in this instance, like they need it. So they really, really need it.
Yeah, no doubt. I love the pick. I think he's going to be a better pro, especially if he goes here too. Like this is just perfect. They got Kobe Turner, like they got Jared Verse, like you said. Like I think this is a great fit, and that defensive line. They saw what Philadelphia's defensive line did in the Super Bowl and throughout the playoffs. So yeah, that's gonna be a great pick for McVay and LA over there. But now we're on to the Baltimore Ravens. Who I think they're going to focus mostly on the defensive side of the ball here with the first round. They would have loved if Malachi would have fell into them the safety, but he didn't. So they could be looking edge here. They could be looking maybe a corner. I think I might have to do it. Yeah, we're going to have to do it. We'll see, though. Baltimore just – what can you say about Baltimore? They got Derrick Henry and they got Lamar Jackson. You know, it's fun, but they need help on the defensive line. Yeah, I'm gonna go Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M. The kid doesn't have the production on the field, but he looks like Myles Garrett. So I think when you play in the AFC North, you need as many of these guys as you possibly can. So the Baltimore Ravens stop the Shamar Stewart fall edge out of Texas A&M.
Is that there's I mean, this kid 1.5 sacks. You play football for an entire season. You are, what do they got him here at? 6'5", almost darn near 270. You are this elite edge rusher. I know, sacks don't always translate. We've seen it in the pros. A guy like, Daniil Hunter for the Vikings, I think he had a handful, single-digit sacks his rookie season, couple seasons. Then he burst onto the scene. He gets double-digit sacks. Like we've seen these edge rushers. They're so raw, and once they put their full package, because you truly do need the speed to power, power to speed. You need the array of moves to be effective. These tackles are so good and so big. But 1.5 sacks, my brother, what are we doing?
A lot of it is with the scheme, though, I think, in which we don't really know what his assignment was and whatnot. But I think it was the scheme and just the way that they had him play and whatnot. But we'll see. And I think Baltimore's a great place for us to be able to figure that out, right? Like they would love to have him fall in their laps. I think the situation for him matters more than a lot of these defensive linemen. But yeah, you're right. Like it is crazy. His production doesn't match the just the physical traits and just how big this guy is.
All right. So
your beloved fathers, Detroit Lions.
So Ben Johnson's gone, Aaron Glenn's gone. They've got a big coordinator departure. A lot of sub-level position coaches also were taken with them. So we'll see how that shapes out. This is an interesting spot. Sucks that, I mean, man, I'll take 2 seconds on this, but man, this team was so good in the regular season. And for them to, you don't want to blame it on injuries, but they were so depleted on defense and on offense, but on defense. And then, I mean, 2 plays into that Washington game, their starting corners getting walked off the field and doesn't return. And they just really couldn't recover, but it felt like this was truly the year that they could have really done it. It stinks for them. My heart hurts for them. But we're not crying about last season. We're here at the draft, brother. So we got to make some picks. So they got a lot of needs, man, and they got a lot of needs on the defensive side of the ball in particular. Again, this Michigan guy, Colston Loveland, keeps like staring at me. He's like, it would be such a fun pick for a lot of these teams. They've got Sam Laporta. They're not going to take Colston Loveland. I do think a guy you referenced earlier in Maxwell Harrison, probably one of the best corners, if not the best corner available, just based on our board right now. I'm going to have them taking him here. Whether they take him or a corner, they do need some defensive back help. Again, this is a spot where maybe you trade back, you acquire some more day 2 picks, but if they're picking here, I like them to kind of start adding some depth to the defensive backfield.
Yeah, I love that dude. He gave up 2 touchdowns in his career at Kentucky, and then he has 3, or maybe this was last year. He has 3 pick sixes. So like the kid is a ball player. He's a ball hawk. He's gonna go get it. He's gonna take it to the house. He might be a little undersized, but he's gonna fit just well there with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. So yeah, I do love that pick. It is crazy how Golden and Loveland are still on the board. Obviously, with Matthew Golden running the 40 that he did, he's not going to make it out of the first round. I mean, he might. We'll see, though. With the way that it has gone, though, I think, yeah, Redskins, they got Deebo Samuel. They brought in Dante Fowler, piece here, piece there for Dan Quinn. Those lucky bastards got Jaden Daniels last year, who we told you was QB1 in the draft. So they're blessed for the next decade as long as they don't mess that up. But they could go running back here. I don't think they necessarily will. They could also go receiver. They could get some help on that defensive side of the ball, which I think they should. All over at all 3 levels. So let's kind of go and see what we are working with. The corners, especially the first round corners, have kind of dried up. Even though I love Trey Amos and your boy Benjamin Morrison, but let's go see if we have any edge left that's looking out at us. I love Swinson, JT, Tuamalola might make it in the first round. The other Texas A&M kid, I don't know. I'm not seeing much here. We might have to go back to the offensive side of the ball. So, I think I'm going to go with Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver, Ohio State. So Washington is familiar with these awesome Ohio State receivers, especially ones that just kind of stick their nose down and just play football, are great off the field. Like, this kid is one that you would let your daughter marry. And he kind of reminds me of Terry McLaurin, plays a little bit different, just his attitude, though, as far as it comes as a person. So I think that's kind of what they're trying to build in Washington and keep this, positive momentum going with the rookie quarterback. And you can never have enough weapons on the offensive side of the ball. So I think Emeka Egbuka, receiver, Ohio State.
I don't want to say I like the pick because I don't want Washington to be good. But what do you think, just on a larger note, what do you think of this overall receiver class?
I mean, it's tough because, it's Travis Hunter, receiver, right?
Right, so
it's super tough.
take Hunter out of it. What do you think of the rest of the guys?
Well, we've been spoiled, right? Unfortunately, we don't have the LSU receiver in this class. Rest in peace, Kyron Lacy. But we don't have that Josh Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors. And yeah, we have these guys from this kid from Ohio State, but there's just not a lot of time. Even it's weak, Eric. To answer your question, it's not the greatest. But there's lots of different flavors too, which is the cool thing about it. Do you want your speed and the kid Jalen Well from Tennessee, or do you want? I like the big kid Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. I don't know. It's just there's not elite talent, but there's lots of different flavors of Kool-Aid, in the middle of the draft that you want.
Yeah, I agree. I hate it. I hate this class receiver.
Well, and then you see the other dude staring at us. Luther Burden was supposed to be a top 5 pick, but he just looked completely different player last year than he did in 2023. So, and there's also stories about him not loving football and this. Well, I'm not here to talk about that, but yeah. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, and funny we talk about receiver class. I'm going to go receiver here with the Bills. We talked about Matthew Golden not making it out of this round. he wouldn't make it past the Bills. You look at their depth chart, it would be a disservice for Josh Allen to go into this season with Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer. I know they got Kincaid and Knox, kind of like a dual tight end situation. I think that'd be a disservice to Josh Allen. If they're sitting here and you've got some of these talented guys on the board, I think Matthew Golden fits really well. Obviously, the Diggs departure. It's funny. I don't think we'll have him go in the next 2 picks, but man, Luther Burden is a guy you watch his feet and the way he runs by guys and dudes cannot touch him is unreal. His production was, I know it's Missouri, quarterback situation, whatever. Production was down last year, but that dude is so crafty and so shifty. I think if he puts it all together, his floor is, or his ceiling is so high. I really, really like him more than a lot of these guys. But I think the way that this draft is shaking out, our draft, I think Matthew Golden would be the pick here for the Bills, and Josh Allen's pretty happy about that.
Yep, I definitely agree, and I could see them, trading it up and it just working perfect for us, where he is, the second, third, whatever receiver off the board, instead of Emeka Egbuka. But Matthew Golden, and he's not just super speedy, Matthew Golden. Like, I know he had the fast 40 time, but he's super good at route running, and he's going to go get the ball. And I like Matthew Golden way better than Ted McMillan, way better than his teammate Isaiah Bond. But yeah, you are right about Luther Burden. Like, he's up there too in my rankings. I love him. He just doesn't care, I think, and that's a problem that matters to a lot of these teams, right? There's some teams that have completely crossed them off. So we are on to the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think this is going to be easy for me. I don't have too much to talk about Patricia Mahomes and them. They have the luxury of going best player available. They do need help on offensive line, though, with trading Joe Tooney to the Chicago Bears. So I think they're going to go tackle Josh Connerly out of Oregon.
Yeah, this is one of those picks that you're like, it almost seems too obvious, but sometimes you got to do the obvious. Like, we're going to talk about the Eagles in a second, but sometimes you're just like, man, just take the best player on a team. Like, your fans know it, we all know it. Like, we just saw you get beat for 60 minutes in the Super Bowl because you couldn't block for your top quarterback. Man, you need to get this guy some help. I like the pick here, Connolly. Man, while Jacob is away, we can talk before pick number 32, the final pick.
Talk about your Philadelphia Eagles.
Man, I just want everyone to just take a moment of silence here and appreciate how amazing this run was for the Eagles. It's funny because the expectations headed into the year, I did not have super high expectations. Obviously, I felt good about Kellen Moore. Felt good about Fangio for sure. We weren't really sure about how these young guys were gonna pan out. Obviously, they had a ton of talent. The way the season started, I think they were 2-2, 2-3. They got blown out versus the Bucs. They lose an awful game at home by letting Kirk Cousins just dog walk them down the field to win the game after a Saquon drop. Things are not looking good. They have a bye week 4, which I think completely, it was the perfect timing, but completely set the tone for the team. They were able to regroup. This team was looking at themselves in the mirror knowing, are we really a 2-2 football game? We got too many dudes across this roster to be losing these type of games. And from there, just went on an absolute run. They had one loss from there on out. That loss was Kenny Pickett playing football to the Commanders. So truly didn't really lose a real football game for the rest of the season. This team kicked it into high gear. I really like to think about what the rest of the NFC East had to watch, right? You had to watch Saquon Barkley go from the Giants. You had to watch him, surpass 2,000 yards and have one of the best seasons any running back has had, and you just let this guy walk and couldn't get half the production from him. The Redskins, the Commanders, the Washington had to watch them. Absolutely kick their teeth in the NFC Championship game. It was just It was an amazing season. I think it truly turned out how it should have turned out. This team was just so loaded with talent. Uh, Howie Roseman did it again. I mean, he's the mastermind behind this. I think Sirianni did a good job of managing talent, managing his players, which in this case, when you had so much talent, you didn't need to be the smartest scheme guy. You needed to have smart coordinators. And you just needed to be able to really bring this team together. And to his credit, did a really good job. So shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions. It was an amazing season, amazing game. And I'll be excited to see them probably not pick at 32 because Howie's going to
they're not.
They're not picking tomorrow.
He has 20 picks over the next 2 years. Like he's probably trading up and trading back or something crazy. And they do have that luxury of having a 32nd overall pick where, I don't think teams factored in as much the fifth-year option as much. But if there's a quarterback and you want to have that option available, like we've seen with Lamar Jackson, who actually, ironically enough, it was the Eagles who held the 32 overall pick that year when Baltimore came up and got Lamar Jackson. But, they're not picking at 32. They're either moving up or moving back. But if they did stick and pick and the board fell this way, which direction would they go?
So if the board fell this way, man, there's been a lot of chirping about Dallas Goedert. Is he on the block? How important was he? Teams obviously saw the talent he could be. You've got Loveland sitting there. I think we always kind of have certain regrets. I feel like every year, again, I'm not just saying this because it's you and me. Like we have done a really good job year in and year out on these mocks compared to even the experts. Our percentage is really good.
And this shit is not easy with the way that we do it. It actually makes it very difficult.
Yeah.
So,
but we usually, I feel like we always leave the draft and we're like, shit, man, we left out this guy. I'm not going to go Colston Loveland. We probably should have had him go in the first round here. I'm going to go with a pick that whether it's they go with this specific player or they go with this position, I'm going to go with Darius Alexander out of Toledo, defensive lineman. So they've got obviously the Georgia boys, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Moro Ajamo is going to have to move to that starting role outside. Nolan Smith is a lighter edge on the outside. The team really doesn't have a ton of depth in that defensive line. And to try to rely on just Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter to do this again, working on full-time snaps, it's not going to work. They've relied on depth. So I think whether they get this guy or whether they start loading up again, like you see it as a strength, so you don't think about it, but like the Eagles have done good, build a strength on a strength, man. Like make your strength even stronger, and sometimes that ends up working out. So I'm going to go again with Darius Alexander, defensive lineman out of Toledo, to kind of close this out here in our mock draft.
I love it. Like I love it that you didn't go Colston Loveland because we don't want to be scared to leave him out, because we left out Shador, and Shador may get called tomorrow, he might not. Colston Loveland might get called tomorrow, he might not. But this whole thing was absolutely fun. You guys can hopefully see the whole screen. Probably not though, but I'll post this on Twitter so y'all can see. I appreciate everyone that came out. Is there any questions in the chat while you still got us? If not, I'll kind of just BS back and forth with Eric real quick. Well, I'll let you guys get that in. Anything stick out to you immediately looking at this board, like how we did? Do we miss a pick, or what are your thoughts?
So I don't know about miss a pick. Obviously, I think there may be some trade-ins. So for a Shador, for a Dart at the end, we're not doing trades, so that's going to go how it will. We didn't go offense, at all. And whether that's just how the draft and the board falls. I know we had T-Mac, we had Genty at the start. We let our tight ends kind of just completely fall other than Warren. We really didn't have a run on receivers at all. We had Travion, we had the two receivers at the end, but this is a light offensive draft. But like we talked about, sometimes the drafts just work out, and we've got a lot of defensive dudes from some big name programs, a lot of teams that have a lot of needs. And we saw, man, like, hey, the Eagles, the Eagles had dudes all across the board, and that's the best way to corral these top tier quarterbacks. You want to shut down Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. You got to have dudes at all levels, and there's a bunch of dudes in this draft at the defensive on the defensive side, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if we're pretty kind of spot on with like all these guys are flying off the board because people know lower tier offensive tackles and guards. They can get running backs in day two. They can get some of these receivers again, like Luther Burden. They can get him maybe in day two, but you want to get these defensive guys in day one.
Yeah, like they build only so many. They build so many, only so many. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Monsters at defensive line and offensive line, right? You're not saying you can go and find a Jamar Chase off the street or an AJ Brown, but it's a little bit easier to find a running back or a receiver as it is to find a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman who can move and bend and just play and have the controlled anger and aggression that these guys do. And it's just the way that the league goes. It's these premium positions that defensive ends that, are going to be flying off the board way earlier than a lot of people think. And then also the offensive linemen that are going to, have to be protecting them. And this is a weaker class, like we talked about, than usual. But like the offensive line would be like the number one offensive line in this class would be like 6 or 7 last year. The receiver outside of Travis Hunter would be like receiver 5 or 6. So it's just interesting how each year goes in and out. And like I said, this is a blast, Eric. I appreciate you for doing this with me year in and year out. Thank you again for all y'all sticking in the chat, Ryan. I see you grinding in there, and I love all the comments and stuff. And you guys are awesome. We'll see y'all when we see you. Uche, love you. Peace.